We marched into the valley with fire in our eyes. But the day we took the mountain, I thought of you and I cried. I fell down to my knees and prayed, thank the Lord that I'm still here. For so long, it's been Bibles and battlefields, and all this time I've held you in my heart. And though we're worlds apart, I still hear you. And all these days I've counted down the hours. It's like 1,000 years. All this time it's been Bibles and battlefields. If there's a silver lining to this endless hell, it's the hope that one day this war will end. And I'll be home with you, my dear, holding you near. And for so long, it's been Bibles and battlefields. And all this time I've held you in my heart. Though we're worlds apart, I still hear you. And all these days I've counted down the hours. It's like 1,000 years. All this time it's been Bibles and battlefields. Oh, I won't give up on my love, and I won't give in, and I will hold my ground until I'm back with you again. All this time I've held you in my heart. And though we're worlds apart, I still hear you. And all these days I've counted down the hours. It's like 1,000 years. All this time it's been Bibles and battlefields.
I'm lonesome since I crossed the hill and o'er the moor and valley. Such heavy thoughts my heart do fill since parting with my Sally. I seek no more the fine and gay, for each does but remind me how swift the hours did pass away with the girl I left behind me. Oh, ne'er shall I forget the night the stars were bright above me, and gently lent their silvery light when first she vowed to love me. But now I'm bound to Brighton camp, kind heaven, then pray guide me, and send me safely back again to the girl I left behind me. My mind her image full retains, whether asleep or waking. I hope to see my jewel again, for her my heart is breaking. But if ever I should have a chance to go back across the ocean, although my love may be lost to me, I'll find another maiden. Shall honey taste no more, the dove become a raven. the falling waters cease to roar, ere I shall seek to change her. Each mutual promise faithfully made by her whom woes betide me, and true the lass that loves me well, and the girl I left behind me. The brigadier commands the right and guard the ford and river. The main guard charged to attack, the flanking party shiver. The man who wears the stars and stripes, and in the field they find me. I will lay down my life and die for the girl I left behind me.
And we're here.
We're back.
Back again. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
We appreciate you for stopping by. Haven't done a history show in a while. This is going to be a little different. I've got a more documentary type as we've been looking at the Chickamauga battlefield.
We're going to talk about some things in the...
Yeah, we're going to talk about some things that we've seen that are very strange. People talk about this all the time. They go to these battlefields and they say, well, I saw this or I saw that.
Yeah.
It could be funny. It could be scary. It could be just unexplainable. Like you don't know what it is, what just happened. And so I have visited a number of battlefields across the landscape, especially throughout the South, a little bit out west, slightly north. I've visited a few, but mainly in the South, east. And how he just went down, bang bang. But Paul, how many battlefields do you think you've visited in your life?
Including the houses that I used to own. Those were battlefields in themselves. Probably 5 or 6.
Okay, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
All hours of the day, different times.
Different times. Been there at night and a few, actually.
Yeah, I've been able to camp on a couple.
Murfreesboro.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Out here in the park, I've camped out here. I don't know how many times. Chickamauga battlefield.
Yeah, I've been able to be camp with approval on battlefields or very nearby. Special occasions, special events. Been able to do that. That's pretty cool.
That you might not know. When I was a wee lad, like 5, 6 years old, and younger, I started riding horses when I was about 3.
Okay.
By myself. As far as getting on a horse, they got pictures of me when I was a 2-year-old or whatever. I had a diaper on, but I used to guide people from Trails End, the ranch.
Yeah.
Shorty Croft owned Trails End Ranch. His wife Sarah ran it for many, many, many years. I don't even know if it's still open now.
It's still open. They spent a lot of money on it, actually. They've done a lot of work down there.
Well, I haven't. I don't even. Does Sarah still own it? I wonder. I don't know. The last time
it may be under new ownership.
That's a possibility. I mean, this has been a long time ago. But yeah, I used to guide tours
through the battlefield.
Started out, riding with Shorty, and I got to where I knew all the trails, and I'd take them out on rides. And I had the privilege of sleeping, camping in the park when I was younger. And I carried that knowledge with me into my juvenile teenage years when I could get in more trouble, and then especially into my young adult days. So,
hello, Angry Conservative. Hope things are going well for you. Appreciate you
definitely
stopping by and getting that raid in, my friend.
Raided the stream.
For folks that don't know, you should go on Rumble, follow. If you don't have Rumble, what's wrong with you? Get the Rumble app.
The Rumble.
Free app. You don't have to pay the premium unless you want to, but go over and be a follower of Angry Conservative 1981. He's an awesome dude. And we thank you for coming, even though he sent you. We appreciate that.
Awesome.
You are all blessings to us to come
definitely.
in. Thank you for helping us with the chat. In fact, I think you probably put us over for
Yeah.
And he is. I am the Cornbread Man, and this is the guy that named me the Cornbread Man. Now we have Biscuit Boy. See what you started? Cornbread Man and Biscuit Boy. We hope y'all have been having a wonderful afternoon, whatever you're covering. I'm sure it's excellento. And we appreciate the follow as well. We're just talking. This is our history show, and just so you know, we're kind of talking about things that we have seen on battlefields. We've been doing a series on the Chickamauga battlefield that we live near by, and Paul gave horse tours and has been able to camp on the battlefield at night. Different weather environments, I guess, cold, warm, or hot, or whatever.
All different kinds.
Did you ever see anything out in the battlefield that just made you go, what was that? See it or hear it?
I was going to say, I've heard a lot of things, but I have seen a couple of things. I know that I've heard the clomp of horse hooves.
Oh, really?
At night, yes.
Wow.
I know I have. Now, that's not to say there wasn't somebody or a group of people riding at night. You're not supposed to.
Not supposed to, but
who's to say that they weren't? I just know what I heard.
Yeah.
And I have actually seen on 2 occasions a light going through the woods. Now, it wasn't somebody with a flashlight. You know how a flashlight, you can see the beam, coming off of it. This was something that illuminated all the way around, like a lantern or something, I guess.
Yeah.
But I have seen one going slow, but deliberately moving in one direction. And then I saw another one that looked like it went up into the trees and came down and did circles and went back and went forward. But it was in the woods. It wasn't in a field. It was in the woods. You could just see the light doing all of these different things. And there was nobody else camping over in that area. I checked it the next day.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a campfire or, anything like that. And there's not many people out in the park at night.
No, it's not something you see. And you could get in some trouble even, they don't want you out there at night. It's officially closed.
Yep.
It is federal property. It is interesting to note that the Chickamauga battle was one of the few that ever had a night battle. And there was Patrick Claiborne who led that night battle, and really didn't amount to anything. It really was
more like a raid, wasn't it?
Yeah, and just it was discombobulated. They kind of got separated, and it really didn't have any bearing on the result of the outcome of that battle. But it's interesting you say that they did have a night battle led by Patrick Claiborne, the great general from Ireland. And just,
where I was, I'd like to add, the first time, the one that I saw going in a straight line, that was Snodgrass Hill. It was in the woods down from Snodgrass Hill on the backside.
Okay.
There's a big field. You know where I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
It was down in that area.
Okay.
The other time was on the other side of the road back towards the Chickamauga Creek. You can go back down in that way. It's actually back behind Trails End Ranch. We used to have a trail that, we would ride out, through the back of the ranch down, right along the creek. And it was out in that area where I saw the light from, going up and down, moving around. That's how I know there was nobody camping out there. I mean, I don't even know why anybody would be out there.
Yeah, and you never know. I mean, there has been some people that have been actually processed. Some didn't get caught. I know some folks, and I told them, boy, that have metal detected out there at night. There's been some that's been caught as well. And one guy got in a lot of trouble. But, and because of, and I have been a reenactor in the past, been many, many years ago. And there has been those that have been camped out there before. And they don't allow battles, but they've allowed movements and they allow demonstrations. I've been a part of Living Histories out there, no doubt, a little bit of marching. And I was able to preach actually once on the battlefield, which is just awesome. But there has been those, but I don't know if they even do it anymore, but they were allowed to camp. And so people see soldiers dressed in period clothes, the look anyway, and they all of a sudden disappear and they say, well, I've seen a ghost. Now, there was a lot of carnage on this battlefield. So sometimes maybe it was that. I'm not saying it was always that. People have said that they've seen strange things out in the battlefield. And of course, the green eyes, which a lot of people talk about around here. What is that? Is it a cryptid, or is it, the story was, some say it was made up. Some say there were people killed, some whatever. But the legend of Green Eyes lives, and they now have the Green Eyes Festival.
Yeah.
And shout out to the gentleman who's keeping that going and got it going. I think it's going to continue to be a hit. That they have.
Like that.
Oh yeah, I think it'll do well. And we have Southern Shadows, who does some history walks and stuff in the area of the town and stuff, and they'll talk about Green Eyes. So there are stories. Some of them may be myth and legends of people that have been attacked out there. And the famous one was that there was a couple that was murdered. Now I don't know if that's true or not, but I know a lot of people that have said they saw some. Well, our friend actually, I think from the Cryptid Hunter, I think he actually was tree knocking over there one night. I think that's in that general area is where they saw
Alexander's Bridge back over.
Yeah, they saw something coming at them to the car and all that. They said it was a cryptid, so I don't know. But there is, it is a place that had a lot of sorrow associated with it. Man and beast that were dead, 150 plus years ago.
Yeah.
It was a place of great, like all battlefields, a place of great sorrow. A lot of blood spilled into the ground, a lot of death, a lot of dying,
Yep.
Horrible, and casualties. And so famous people died, injured. It's horrible. And we have walked out there, and there's just, it can be creepy. I mean,
It can be surreal.
It can be surreal
Yeah.
when you think about all that's happened there. So I know lots of people that have said, I've heard stuff and I don't know what I heard. I don't know what it was, but to be out there at night would not be. Now, I used to know some guys that go out there and turn their lights off on the cars they drove around. It was kind of a young person's, goofing around, because it is a place where there's not any light except for moon or whatever, because there's no modern lights or anything allowed out there in that part. So you do get a good backdrop of
Not a lot
the
of
sky.
ambient light.
So you're going to see light, like you said, would be odd because you can see it forever.
Yep.
And a lot of, as we noticed, and we were out there recently, they've had a tree disease that has just decimated a lot of trees. There's dead trees, dead limbs. They're falling all the time. They say it'll take 30 years to recover. So when you walk out through there, Paul, it's kind of weird. It's like, it's like it's dying. I mean, in a sense, it's like
you could kind of feel death, and we were standing over a grave at that time too.
We were,
and it's just a feeling of heaviness, kind of. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not one of those people that, you're going to see walking around with an EMF thing, going, tap me on the shoulder if you're real,
we might for pure entertainment value.
Well,
who knows?
Yeah, pure entertainment.
Never say never.
But something that kind of concerned me, and maybe I'm reading too much into it. It could just be and fun, whatever. But they're talking about in 2027. I don't know who it is, but they're talking about pulling back the veil in Chickamauga Park. It's going to be some kind of Halloween type thing. Not this year, but next year.
I think I heard a little something about that.
And I'm not saying that it's evil or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. I don't know enough about it to make a judgment or anything. But when you start saying pulling back the veil,
that's a powerful
you're
statement.
Looking into things that you have no business looking into unless you are ordained by God to do so.
Yeah,
that's just the way I feel about
As
it.
I thought about, some of this stuff before we went online.
Mm-hmm.
And folks, this has happened so many times. I've always said that a soldier story has to be told. And I cannot tell you the times that people that were coming there showed up at the same time looking for an ancestor, and that was the same ancestor for both of them. and they went to this one spot at this very moment in time
Yeah.
and met each other, and found out they were related
Down the line.
It's weird, man. There's a weird feeling to that. And I can say myself, now it wasn't on the battlefield, all he did serve from the area, but he was sent to the northern field of operation,
Right.
the Northern Virginia Army. But I can tell in searching for his grave, I didn't know who, I never knew him. His granddaughters, who were still alive, knew my family and told me all these stories, and I got a chance to interview him. But when I went to his grave and I found the cemetery it was at, and I've said this before, when we got out of the car, my wife says, "Where do we start looking?" And I said, "We don't have to look. I know where it's at."
Right.
And my wife says, "What do you mean you know where it's at?" I said, "It's on top of the hill. It's right in line with us." And she said, "You're kidding." And she said, "You're crazy." My wife's just like, "Oh, come on, you're messing with me."
Yeah.
And I said, "Walk with me." And we walked, and I said, "We'll do a straight line." I'm telling you, I know, I feel it. I don't know how to explain it. And we went up there and walked right up.
Straight to it.
My feet were right in front of the stone.
Wow.
And my wife said, "How in the heck did you know that?" I said, "I can't explain it.
That is
But I'm
amazing.
telling you, with everything I knew, standing by the car before we ever went up the hill, I was going to walk right up to that." And another odd thing about that was the grave used to not have a stone. Somebody did that years later.
Oh, wow.
We have since come back and put some things there. You can put flags in and all that, and recognize him as a soldier. But I walked right to it, dude, and I knew where it was at. These are unexplained things that are very weird, and I just think that a soldier story needs to be told.
Did I ever tell you about the before this one here? We had a big bulldog named Rocky.
Yeah,
Well, we took Rocky, and when I say a big bulldog, he was a bully mix. He had a huge head. His head was about 3 times of Howie's. And he would look kind of like Butch in the cartoons. He had this big upper body and then the little bitty, hind legs stuff. Well, they were muscular, but anyway, we had him up there, and me and my wife were getting ready to leave. We had been up there. I was showing her, the cemetery at the Methodist church where you had taken me, and we had, rearranged some things and cleaned things up, and new flags were put out and all that good stuff. And I was showing her that. Well, as we went back to the car to get something to drink, gave Rocky some water and everything, we're standing there talking, and Rocky takes off running. Well, he runs out into the cemetery where this big pile of leaves are. And as he's there, this whirlwind of leaves picks up. Now, that's not unusual. You see that all the time in the fall, leaves, spinning around. Well, the weird thing is the leaves picked up and it went over to another grave, hovered around for a few seconds, 10, 15 seconds, it was there. And the whole time, Rocky's in the middle of this, jumping up and down, playing with the leaves, and we got it all on video. Well, then it goes from there back over to where it originally came from and dies.
Mm.
Well, we put that video out on YouTube, Facebook. It went to YouTube somehow. Somebody, I don't know how, but anyway, it had like 15 million views. I mean, it was ridiculous. And they finally took it down. Facebook did, because of the hate things people were saying, because it was a Confederate cemetery.
Yeah.
And we were paying our respects. And you know how people go. But there were a lot of people that were into the paranormal that started, coming in and doing remarks and stuff. We had to disassociate ourselves because we were getting pummeled. You can only imagine, that many million people, and there were 2 or 3 million messages left.
Good.
I couldn't read them all, but I did read several. And one lady did some research into that cemetery and and it turns out, me and my wife went back and double checked this, and it was true. Where the little leaf whirlwind started was the grave of a little boy. where it went to was the grave of his mother, which was not, they're not side by side. They're like 15, 20 feet apart. Then it went back to the little boy's grave and died.
Mm.
Now, there was a whole story about what happened to the little boy and why he was there and this, that, and the other. And I don't remember all of it.
Yeah.
But Jody and I both felt peace while we were watching this. And one guy pointed out, and if you looked in the video, there was one leaf that followed Rocky around and interacted with him while this thing was moving there and back. There was one leaf that kept, and it didn't move like this.
Yeah.
It was moving in a different way.
Fascinating. We're going to have to find that video. I think
I wish I could.
we got to find out where, because I've never seen it and I've heard you talk about it.
It's a really wild video. I've done searches trying to find it. Jody says that she's got it somewhere.
Yeah.
She just don't know where.
Right.
So we're going to have to do a really good, thorough search for it.
That's fascinating, though. You know, and when you have deaths of children, especially, it's,
Yeah.
you know, when I would go on, as I went around this, all around the country, but a lot of it was in the Southeast and was speaking in churches and stuff. A lot of these old churches, the cemetery was there. It was the church cemetery,
Exactly.
and it grew. It could be small, could be huge, but
Right.
the cemetery always told a story because you would have a disease sweep through, and you'd have all these children that were dead
In the same year.
in the
time.
same year. You would
Period.
see
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, this ancestor that I told you that I walked up to,
Mhm.
pardon me, I walked up to his son, one of his children, his son was a pastor, became a pastor in the area, pastored 3 churches,
Right.
and disease swept through that community.
Mm.
And within 2 months, he preached his mother's and his father's
Oh my goodness,
funeral service.
man.
And there were children and older people. He got the children and the older people, mainly.
Well, they're the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would see that, and you go into community and you go to these cemeteries and you see that.
Yeah.
And if you're out there by yourself, especially, it's just eerie. Excuse me, a certain time of year, it's just wild.
Right.
And sound also plays a lot into this. Sound does strange things due to the topography and
It
environmental
dances.
conditions. It is very strange.
Yes.
And things that you think are far away could be close. And this fooled the soldiers as well during the war. That's
Yeah.
why they ran into each other sometimes. They just didn't, even with scouts out, they
Yeah.
just didn't see each other. And they would literally run into each other.
And they would try to use echolocation.
Yeah, but when you're
But
you're down,
You can't.
the sound, you may not hear what's over the next hill.
Exactly. And it's going to bounce around. off
And
the
they've
ridge.
done battlefield studies of this back to the Revolutionary War
Right.
and how the effect of sound did in battles, and it's and heat and all those things. But sound is a lot of that. And when you get out like that and you hear things, it's creepy. And a lot of people have a problem if the sound is behind them, you know, because you can't see behind you. You turn and you look, and it just is creepy. It creeps you out to hear something. If you hear what sounds like a step on leaves or branches or something, and it sounds like it's just, 30, 20, 30, 40 feet away, that's creepy.
Yeah.
It could be animal, could be whatever. But, people that believe they have ran into spirits, ghosts, or whatever, and, it is, people go out to try to hear this or see this all the time. And stories come in. Stories come in. People say they've heard stuff, seen stuff.
Right.
I'm not saying what it is. I don't know. But I know that when we've went out, sometimes you see weird things. And sometimes you're just not able to explain them, man. It's just gone. It was there and then it's gone. And you're left with what was that feeling? And that's what you're like, you see that. It's like, what was that? Was that coincidence? Was it, what does it play there when you see something like that happen? It is creepy, but it's interesting at the same time.
Have you ever passed a ghost or seen a ghost?
I never have that I know of. Now, I know of a number of friends, including you, that said you have.
I have twice. Yes. And you know about both of them. I've told you about the houses over here in Chickamauga.
Yeah.
The Confederate, there have been one was a Confederate soldier going up and down the steps. And the other one, I'm not convinced it was a man. I'm just not convinced it was a man.
Yeah.
It could have been a female with trousers on. You don't see many of those. You know, I mean, just think about it. How many females in that from that time period wore trousers?
Well, and the ones I would think about would be those that tried to pass themselves off as men to get in the military.
Yes.
And that did happen. That's proven. There
Yes.
was a number of women that were in the war. They wanted to fight, and so because they would not let a woman fight, and they would dress themselves up as men.
And this woman was killed in the Battle of Chickamauga.
Okay, wow. Okay, yeah. And that makes sense.
As a soldier.
Yes. Yeah, when they were discovered, they would kick them out of the army or reassign them or whatever. Sometimes lock them up. But if they would rejoin
the nurses.
Yeah, they
that's
would.
what they would do is they would put them on the medical corps, whatever.
And some of the old houses, because the town wasn't there, but there were old houses and farms. These people, some of them that did fight there were from here, obviously. And
Gordon Lee Mansion, I don't know how many people that I've talked to that have said they have seen or witnessed something weird in that house. Mansion.
The Marsh House is another house that's listed. It has cannonball holes in it, and different things. But
certified here during the war.
Sounds they hear in the house have creeped people out.
Yep.
It is a house that definitely has a lot of sounds in it at night, and it.
Have you ever been in a house with old wooden floors, and you're on a particular floor and there's nobody else, but yet you hear the board squeaking like somebody's walking across it?
Well, dude,
does that not make
the church that we did our show in? Remember?
Yes, I remember.
I never wanted to be in there at night by myself. It always creeped me out.
Yeah.
And I heard so many sounds in that church.
I as well.
Which is it was built in the 70s.
I never told you about.
Dude, I could have swore that people knocked at the back door. I've heard windows tapped, and I'd go out and nothing because it's out in the rural area. It's not like we're in a city where people just walking around.
Exactly.
I'd feel like I heard a car pull up. I'd hear people walking across the top. That I never want. I was always glad when you were there.
Steps.
Yeah, I tell you, that's some of the creepiest stuff I've ever heard in my life was in the church.
Yeah.
It messed with me bad.
Well, we had to go upstairs to go to we recorded in the basement. We had to go upstairs to go to the bathroom unless we just went outside, But there was one time that I was in the bathroom upstairs and heard a door shut down that hallway. I know there was.
Yeah.
I know there was a door shut somewhere upstairs with me. And you were not upstairs. You were downstairs.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I always wanted somebody to be there, but sometimes I'd have to do some work. And I tried to play music, but I couldn't do it because I'd always hear something.
Yeah.
And I would cut it off and be like, and I would come out of that office where we made that one in office.
Right.
I would come out there and I would say, hello, is somebody here? Did somebody come in? It was, And man, I'm telling you, man, the back door to that church did not have windows.
Right. Well, it was underground.
Yeah. And so when you went back there, you never know what you were going to face when you opened that door. There was no window on that side of the church.
Yep.
And I would hear things maybe it was an animal, but I've heard things on that door that
it had a concrete little covered area right there.
Yeah.
Over the door.
I would ignore it as long as I could, and I would keep hearing it, and I would just have to go investigate it. And I would even
vehicles out there.
Yeah, exactly. And I would holler like, "Hey, I'm coming out."
Yeah.
If you're up to no good, I've got a weapon. I'm telling you.
Be there when I get there.
And what's funny about it is I don't remember that happening when someone else was there.
Right.
Like, I mean, you said you heard the door, but when you were there, it was like I just maybe I didn't notice it. I'm telling you, man, Maybe my senses were just up, but I know that I've heard weird stuff in that church, man.
I did as well.
And I never wanted to be there at night. I was okay until it got nighttime. But once it got night around that place, it got weird to me.
I mean, you know,
if we were having service, I loved it. But there were people there. You know, to be by myself down there.
Yeah, but you and I recorded well into the night.
Oh, we did. There were a lot of late nights.
Numerous times. Well, I mean,
we'd be there till
7 years.
You know, 10 or 11 o'clock at night sometimes.
Yeah.
And I was just always glad to get out of there at night. I'm telling you, man, sometimes when, a lot of times me and my pastor were the last ones to leave. And there is a level of danger. We've had some weird people pull in before you didn't know what was going on.
Right.
You know, but even still, I always made sure that when he was getting out, I was getting out. We would just be talking, but we made sure, you know, you just common courtesy, you make sure somebody's car starts up. You don't take off down the road. You kind of pull out together. Exactly. I was always wanting to be out of that place. And I love the church. It's nothing like it's haunted or something. But it was just weird, man. I don't know how to explain it.
The mind does a lot of things, man. But there's some things the mind just, I mean, you know, yes, the mind can even, you know, you hallucinate, you know, the mind can do things.
It really can. And sounds, lights, colors.
Yeah.
You know,
let him use the rest.
Yeah. Quick. But I have, you know, experienced some of that on battlefields. You go and even cemeteries themselves. I used to patrol a cemetery for security as a second job. And I have to go in there every time I worked. I'd have to go in there several times. One of those was in the daytime. The rest were at night. And at the end, because they had a homeless problem, they had ran some homeless people off that got out of hand. I would have to go. I was required to start going out where they kept the crypts and all that stuff just laying around. And it was in a wood line, and it was so creepy to go out there. Because you didn't know if you were going to run into somebody or not. That slipped back there. There were so many places to hide. And because I'm a child of the 70s, I would think of that show, Coal Shack. I would think of that. And you hear weird things out there. And the way a cemetery kind of rolls and the sound and the wind would be blowing. And I would hear things going out there. I got to where I just pulled out there with my vehicle if the ground was not muddy, because I just didn't want to be away from that far from the truck. And, you know, I kept all the lights on so I'd illuminate the area, but it was not something I enjoy doing. But when you are out in a battlefield and you're in one of these areas where thousands of men died, great struggle, there's something there. I mean, it's something about it. I don't know how to explain it, but there's definitely something about it. But a cemetery, an old church cemetery, cemeteries out in rural areas or even cities, battlefields, old houses, especially where those have died or something's happened. There's strange things that go on, and it really does mess with your mind. I mean, it is creepy. Then you have those, Paul, that believe they're reincarnated from someone who died or was injured in a battle.
Yeah.
Now, I don't believe in that, but I know people that believe that.
You know, that's something that has always puzzled me, because I have actually seen cases of reincarnation, you know, people claiming they were reincarnated, that are very, very compelling. I mean, very compelling. It is really, really strange. And I know that, you know, those things that time don't really affect can have a thing to do with that, you know. Obviously, I don't know that an exorcism or anything like that was ever done on anybody, but I've also heard people that get especially heart transplants, because, you know, the heart actually stores memories. Did you know that?
I've heard that.
That science has proven it now, that the heart actually stores memories. It can remember things, and that makes the words of the Bible ring so differently in my ears now. You know, just, I mean, it's a lot louder. You know.
Well, you know, the Bible says to guard your heart. You know,
it does.
To guard it from things, because you can damage it.
But with all of your heart,
spiritually and whatever, and
you
do
know,
things.
why is the heart constantly? You know, it pumps the life blood through the body, but it actually can store memories. And these transplant recipients are having memories of the people that they got it from.
Oh wow.
And it actually happened.
I've not heard of that.
Yes.
That's wild.
Yes.
That would be wild to have something like that happen.
Exactly. And to have a memory that you were never in, but that it actually happened.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Are you a heavy dreamer? Do you dream a lot when you? Because I know you don't sleep good a lot of
Not
nights.
anymore. I
but-
used to dream. PTSD has stopped me from dreaming. But I don't care what anybody says. PTSD is real, and it affects a lot of people. A lot of people suffer in silence because of it. But they had me on this medication where I would not dream, but then I would not sleep either. And I thought, I don't sleep enough anyway, so I'm not taking this stuff. And I didn't like the way it made me feel after about a week of taking it.
Sure.
It's like an accumulative effect. I started mood swinging and different things like that, and I'm unstable enough. I don't need to have mood swings.
No.
You know what I mean? So
No.
anyway,
Another place that it was not a battlefield that a lot of weird things happened was my aunt and uncle's farm.
right.
They had a lot of natural things that went on. It was a spot that got hit by a lot of lightning.
Wow.
Every time that I was there, that a storm came through, something got hit.
It was on a ley line.
I never seen nothing like that. The tree in their front yard had been hit so many times. Part of it was dead. Fence posts on fire were common.
Yeah.
It hit the house one time, and I was there for this. It blew my aunt out of her. It hit the power box, and it blew her out of her. That was where she kept her canning at, and it blew her out. That was also a place at night that
Did it
weird
hurt her?
stuff. She was bruised, scared her.
I bet.
But I was there for that one.
Wow.
And I've never seen a place like that was so. When they told me when I would go down there, they would say they'd always remind me, remember, if a storm comes up, if you were near the
Go outside.
No.
Get out of the house. It was storm.
No, we were always told to get out of the house and do work. But if you were close to the barn, go there. If you were close to the
Right.
house, and they would be out waving you in as they saw this activity happen. And I thought they were crazy at first. Like, nah, it's not that bad because I'd seen storms. Obviously,
Yeah, and then
nothing like
boom.
this, dude. Nothing like this. I saw it myself,
Wow.
and I didn't play with it, dude. It was scary, man, to be
I
in
bet.
a house with a metal roof. It was no farmhouse with a metal roof, and you got all this lightning activity that's striking things all over the place. Farm animals have been hit. That belief that farm animals can be hit, bullcrap. They can get hit too. But I saw it all, man.
Anything knocked ground, it can get
Creepy, dude. Creepy,
like
but-
somebody taking target practice.
But and I know it's just that part of you. But like I was saying, being in a cemetery at night when it was foggy and you hear stuff, and I'd have to go check doors. I'd have to go in the mausoleum and make sure. I'd have to turn the lights out.
Have you ever played any pranks on people?
Not like that, but I will tell you that I'm going to tell you one that is true story.
Right.
That a federal officer for the battlefield told me that he did.
Right.
And this is a true story as he told me and told
I
a lot
know,
of
I know the story. I know the
So-
story, and I know it's true.
He had a bunch of them. This is the one I remember.
Yeah.
So at Wilder Tower, which was built well after the war by former freed slaves or former slaves that were freed,
Right.
it was named after a Union general who came back, became the mayor of Chattanooga, a carpetbagger, let's be honest. I got to throw that in, being the Southern guy that I am.
Right.
But anyway,
Right.
it was not there during the war. But we talked about one of the shows recently about people that had jumped off of it or whatever. But anyway, so the guard is patrolling and he sees this car out there. So he decides it's a boring night. Let's have some fun. So
Why
he goes back to the office, and they have a lot of things on display. But in the back, they've actually got
A museum.
real. Well, they've got
You
it
gotta
in
keep all that
storage.
stuff
They
somewhere.
changed,
Exactly.
and so he went and got a real uniform. I mean, I can't believe he told us he did this.
I know.
He got one of the old
No,
lanterns.
no names mentioned.
Well, I don't even remember his name.
Okay.
He got one of the real lanterns and he got some chain. And so he sneaks by. The grass was up. They hadn't cut it yet because they get these private contractors to come in and cut the grass.
Right.
So it's
And
basically.
this was a few years ago.
Oh, this goes back to the 90s for sure.
Yeah, well, I think
Maybe
it
even
was earlier
80s.
than that,
It might have been 80s.
I'm pretty sure it was the 80s.
So he goes up there, and it's a guy and girl, and they're making out. So when he is snuck out there, he's hid down in the grass.
Yeah.
And the guy gets out in his underwear, and he's going to relieve himself on the ground. And at that time, this guy starts making a sound like a monster or something.
Yeah, like
And the guy's
some
looking around,
bodies
and he's telling the girl,
buried.
he's like, "Be quiet, be quiet. I hear something."
Yeah.
And he comes up out of this grass, shaking the chain, doing the lantern like this. So he can't really see. He sees something illuminated,
Right.
old, looking like a soldier,
Yeah.
coming towards him way away in this deep grass. This guy is dying laughing telling this. This guy dives in the car like Superman, cranks the car up. He's in his underwear. Too, yeah, like, but head first, dives in, cranks the car, throws it low, squeals the tires, and on the back side, I don't even think you can do it anymore. I think they closed that. You used to be able to go out one of the roads out there. There's a railroad. There's railroad tracks.
right
Yeah,
there,
he jumps the railroad tracks
Oh yeah.
like the Duke boys. Comes down, sparks are flying everywhere.
Then the road goes this way.
Yeah, it does. You got to
know,
cut.
Just boom, and then.
And I was thinking, for all those years, this guy has told people, "I've seen a ghost." Like, he might not have been telling what he was doing out there, but he said we love it when we see people doing that because we like to have fun with them. So some stories might be people goofing off.
Right.
Others, who knows? Strange things you just don't know. But there's a lot of weird things in battlefields, man. I mean,
Hey, I'll
and
tell
there's
you
a
what,
presence. Like I went to Shiloh.
Yeah.
It was during the day, and I can't explain it, man. There was the carnage there, and all those soldiers
A lot
that were
of death
buried in the
Shiloh.
pits. And as I rode through there, man, it's just like I could feel a heaviness, man. I told my wife. So my wife was like, I don't know, but I felt it, man. I'm telling you, I just feel like I'm in tune with that somehow. And I didn't expect it. It wasn't like I went there and said, "Let me feel something."
Hey, listen, we all
I
have
just
our
did a
gifts,
drive-through,
brother.
man.
We all have our gifts.
And I just felt like it was. I mean, I could like feel it, man.
Yeah.
It's very strange, and
You're intuitive.
I have felt that at places, and I have felt at some places where I felt like it was a demonic presence, and I got out. I've become physically sick before.
Yeah.
At people's homes before that, I felt the oppression as soon as I turned in their driveway.
Wow.
I had to get out, man. I got physically sick, and as soon as I left, it left me.
I've
I tell you,
seen
man, there are
people
things that you
react to prayer that this kid. I don't know if he was faking or not. I don't think he was. I know that me and the two other guys that were praying over him, we weren't faking it.
right.
We were convinced it was real. He goes into convulsions
Oh
while
wow.
we're praying, and we're praying the spirit out of him, and it was weird. This was at a dormitory that I lived in when I was in Mississippi, and there was the school that I went to, I don't know, call it school boarding, whatever. But anyway, was Christian based, and I thank God for that, because I was able to arm myself well enough for the dumbassery is the only word that I could have what I did later
Yeah.
in life. But I've seen how demons react to prayer.
I've had it happen twice, and in prayer circles,
Right.
I've had people ask me this twice. They would say, "Do you know you have like electricity coming out of you while you're praying?" And I said, "Well, I've heard it one other time. The second time when it happened," and she said, "While we were praying, I'm telling you, it was God. It wasn't me, but she said it didn't hurt, but it was definitely there. I could feel that passing from you into me. It was just."
You were a conduit.
Yeah, and that's what I said, and she said, she said, made my hand warm, but it never hurt. But she
Right.
said it was obvious. I saw it was just powerful, and I was like, wow, well, that's God. I mean, that's not anything I'm doing.
Yeah, I didn't do it.
But yeah, but
Most definitely.
but you get into situations like that. I'll say this one. This is not really something I mean, I did see it, but it was getting more. It's more in line with the power of God. But one time, my friend, he loves to tell this story.
Yeah.
I was kind of, I'd been away from the church for a long time. I came back in, and we were just, man, loving being in church, loving being in right relationship with God. And we had never, me and my wife, and she just recently got saved. We had never been to a watch night service where they go in on New Year's Eve and you preach and sing and preach and then pray in the new year. And I loved them. I used to go to them all the time.
Right.
And it was our first one. So we went to this. So we had such a good time. And we'd been there for I think this one started at 8 or 9 o'clock. So we'd been in there for 3 or 4 hours. And at that particular church, a lot of times they'll have refreshments afterwards. You'll actually have an after
They'll
midnight.
feed you a meal.
Oh yeah, a big meal.
Yeah.
And it's a big thing.
Man,
Well, that one
cook too, boy.
that one they didn't do that. So when we left,
Right.
it's like we didn't really want the night to end.
Yeah.
And it was like he said, I just hate to end like this. He said, and we both said it, and we didn't even think about it. So we
Yeah.
just said, why don't we go down? And this is not against Waffle House, but why don't we go down to Waffle House and just have some fellowship and eat a little bit? We're all like, yeah.
Right.
And so it's me and my wife and my 2 sons and him and his wife, and I think their 2 sons was 2 sons and a daughter. Anyway, there was a couple other people that decided to go. So, dude, we are so walking on the clouds, man. We are so on fire. Even he had his Bible under his arm walking in. He's like, "Look at me," He probably should have took it on in, but he put it back in the car.
Yeah.
Think about it. It's New Year's Eve
Wow.
at Waffle House.
Oh,
After
surprised
midnight.
You got a seat.
Well, after midnight, it was packed. So it was like God just saved some seats for
Right.
us.
Yeah.
We sit there,
It was a divine appointment.
and it everybody in there except the workers, I think they were. Everybody in there is lit, man. They are drunk. It's like the bar's turned out. We can hear all kinds of cursing and anyway, they're all looking at us like we just landed from Mars or something, because here we are in our suits. I think I had a suit. I don't even remember now. I probably just had a tie on, but anyway, he was in a suit, and they're looking at all the ladies in the dresses and everything. Anyway, we sit down, and we work to get the order in. We were real close to, you're always close in the Waffle House. You're right next to most of the seating. You're right next to the kitchen area, and so they came and got our order pretty quick. But anyway, I'll never forget this. So the preacher, he was a preacher and I wasn't. He said, "Why don't I go ahead and pray and over the food, and when it comes, because it may come in staggered,
Right.
you can go ahead and eat."
Yeah. Yeah.
Because normally at church you would get everybody together, pray, and then eat.
Exactly.
So it makes sense, So
Still
right
praying,
before he went to pray, my wife, who was sitting with his wife,
Yeah.
like a table away, we had 3 tables worth of folks, or 4, or something like that. Anyway, my wife says, "Pray loud enough that we can all hear you." And he was like, okay. He was thinking, and for a moment he thought about, I don't know, here we are in this place, and it
Yeah.
was loud. I mean, it was crazy. It was like being at a bar. And he starts praying, and he prayed loud. And you could have heard a pin drop in that place.
Awesome.
And when we got done, there was one table behind us. It was a couple of drunks, and the one drunk, he kind of smart aleckly burping, Belster said, "Amen." But it was like one of those commercials when the EF Hutton speaks, everybody listens. It was total silence. Even the worker stopped working, dude.
Wow.
Nobody moved. And the guy, we were sitting there thinking, "Oh boy, we're gonna have to deal with this." And right about that time, that guy goes, "I'm kind of tired of this place. Why don't we just get out of here?" And he said, "Yeah, I want to go." And they left, and we had perfect peace, like you were talking about. We had at that cemetery, we had perfect peace. There was no distraction. Everybody was cordial and kind. We heard no cursing, no nothing. It was like God just put a blanket over that place and said, "My people are going to enjoy their fellowship tonight."
Yeah.
And to this day, he
That's
still
awesome.
talks about it. I'm telling you, You had to be. It's one of those you had to kind of be there
Yeah.
to realize it was like we walked into the devil's lair or something, and God just put the clamps on it all. And I'm gonna tell you, we had a great time. I will never forget it. It was just amazing feel of God's presence, man.
Yeah.
I will never forget that. Fascinating. And I was a
There's
young
nothing
believer.
like it.
I was a
There's
young believer,
nothing
man.
like it.
I was like, my kids
Right.
were like, wow, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go out, and I think that's just what you remind yourself is that I'm in God's hands.
Oh, yeah.
And I may be seeing something or hearing something that is very strange, even scary, creeps you out, but you just remind yourself that God is in control.
Yeah. If I leave this earth, I know where I'm going. So if you're gonna get me, come get me.
As the song
I
says,
ain't going down without a fight.
I'm a winner either way.
There you go.
And so
Live
anyway,
as Christ, to die as gain.
amen. Well, thanks, Paul. I've enjoyed just we've got so many
hey,
stories like this.
I love doing this. Yeah, we need to do this more often. But I want to ask you a question
All right.
before you go. You said you'd never played a prank on anyone in the cemetery.
Not in the cemetery, no.
All right. Would it freak you out if you walked by somebody and said, "How you doing?" and they stopped and just stared at you and then started looking around and then said, "You can see me"?
That would be
Would
wild.
it freak you out?
At night, it would. I would think they were on dope, to be honest, but it would creep me out.
I did that to somebody over
What-
over off of 153.
I'll tell you two things about the cemetery. And I've mentioned a couple of these before, but because I've saw a lot of
Man,
weird
it's
stuff
scared
in the
them pretty bad.
cemetery at night. I've seen people
Right.
grieving over a dead child. I've seen people that were in there laying on the ground, sleeping, or just laying there. I've seen people sitting in the rain beside a grave with a gun in their hand, and
Man,
I've seen some weird stuff.
I bet.
I've seen date night in the cemetery. I have people.
Wow.
It's like they included
that's
the
morbid.
weird stuff. But I want to tell you about the two that kind of.
Were they all dressed in black?
Well, he was in black tie, and she was in her gown wasn't black. It was.
I was thinking.
I mean, they looked like they were going
you
out to
know.
a ball or something, a dance,
Oh wow,
And they said it was like a date thing. I think they were including someone that died, but it was still a little weird to me.
that is kind
They had the blanket, wine, all that stuff. It was a little weird. I just reminded them, hey, I'm sure you're fixing to leave, but at dusk the cemetery does close.
right.
I just have to remind you that's part of my job. They were nice. They said, yeah, we're fixing to go. But I've seen a lot. I've seen people I got mad at that I want to jack their jaw, to be honest, because of the disrespect in the cemetery.
Wow.
People that got mad that I run them out of the cemetery. But anyway, one night, two things happened in the same night. So I pull in the cemetery and I see three cars that are sitting on the back side, almost to the very back of the cemetery.
Right.
Well, instantly, as someone by themselves at night, this is after midnight. This is probably 2:00 in the morning. A little weird. So I don't know what I'm walking up on. Three cars. So I walk up
Wow.
to I get up there, I put my lights on them. I shine lights. I got a huge flashlight. I shine the light. I don't see nobody in the cars, and I'm looking all around the cemetery. So I go up, and all the windows are down on the vehicles, and there's CDs laying in the seat. There's personal belongings. I saw
Nobody in there.
nobody in there. I was looking that cemetery over. I went over the hill. I mean, I thought they got to be over here. I don't know if they left with somebody, but they left. I figured it was a drug deal or something.
Yeah.
But there was nobody there. I mean, there were keys in the ignition, dude.
Wow.
I mean, it was
Felt
like
that safe leaving it.
it
there.
was strange. I thought, well, they're hiding from me. They're going to mess with me. But I knew that cemetery, and I looked and looked. I never found anything. But as I come around one part, I was searching for. There was a van that was parked over from her. So now I got four vehicles. I see these three first.
Yeah.
Then, because it really got my attention. Well, then as I was looking around, I'm like, crap, there's a van over there. Well, I go up to investigate the van, and this guy comes around the corner with a guitar slung over his shoulder, and he's like, "Hey, Hoss, how you doing?" 3 sheets of the wind drunk,
Wow.
And I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm thinking maybe with him. And I asked him, he said, well, I'm singing to my friend. I'm like, okay. I said, what about these cars over here? He goes, well, I don't know who they are. I never saw them. I saw those cars when I pulled in. I ain't never seen nobody with them. So I'm talking to him, and I'm like, well, he's stone drunk. He's got it all going on. And I asked him, I said, well, what do you mean you're singing? So he said, well, I had a guy, as a friend of mine. He died in a car wreck. And he said, I come out here and sing songs to him. I don't know if he can hear them or not, but it makes me feel good. And I said, can't you come at a better hour? He said, well, I used to come in the daytime, but people looked at me like I was kind of crazy. And I said, and you think it looks better at 2 a.m.?
Well, not as many people.
He said, well, there ain't as many people, but I guess it would look kind of funny. And I said, and I said, well, I'm going to have you go, man. Who I was done singing anyway. I never saw that guy before that or after that, dude. Wow. And I used to go in that cemetery 3 days a week. At night, and I never saw that before. But man, he was a funny guy. But man, it was a little creepy, man.
I bet.
I mean, because you got all these cars, you wondered where these people are. But the thing that would really creep me out is having to go in buildings that should have been locked and somebody left the door unlocked.
Yeah.
So when that happens, you have to go in and you have to investigate to clear the building.
Right. Make sure you're not locked.
I'm in there with the urns and stuff, dude. That's not where I want to be.
Right.
And that's another building that you would hear strange sounds.
Oh, I bet.
I always investigated really quick, got out, hollered out, made sure I made my presence
still
known.
here.
Yeah, and I would get out there and lock that door up.
Yeah.
And it was a cube-shaped building, and you had to walk all the way around it. And I just knew coming around that building, I was going to run into somebody, walking around that thing or something. Creepy stuff, man. Creepy stuff. But that's our show tonight. Bibles and battlefields, whether you're in an old house. I
really enjoyed this one.
Battlefields or whatever.
Yeah. Biscuit boy and cornbread, man.
Send us fan mail on what you've seen. We would like to know what you've seen. So we'll play a song on the way out. And good night, everybody. Thanks for the support of the Southern Patriots and Wolf Nation podcast. And we'll see you in the morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. for the Cornbread Nation Man Morning Show, depending on if we're still here.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay, maybe, yeah. Be good to have you. Maybe Ronan will join us in the morning, our new friend from Australia. I think the morning shows are good for him. So we'll see if he joins in.
I'd like to jump on the meeting.
Yeah. Take care, my friends.
Last night, everybody.
See you, Howie. See you, Paul, Biscuit Boy, and everybody watching now or in the future. Take care.
Early in the morning on the 19th of September, our army set out from Claymores Cove. Down in Georgia, down by the Chickamauga, and I knew that the fighting was gonna be close. Down by the Chickamauga, by the Chickamauga, down by the Chickamauga, we saw our boys laying in rows. For 2 long days we heard the sound of cannonballs tearing through the trees like a summer rain. For 3 long days we heard the sound of rifle fire making our men scream out in pain. Down by the Chickamauga, by the Chickamauga, down by the Chickamauga, we saw our boys laying in rows. Now when the smoke cleared, there was thousands laying dead. The river ran red with the blood of the brave. Brother fought by my side and I was there when he died, the day we made our stand at Snodgrass Hill. Down by the Chickamauga, by the Chickamauga, down by the Chickamauga, we saw